Hello and welcome to my presentation on how I would widen participation of my chosen demographic through knowledge and understanding of philosophical, political and social ideology. This will be followed by a proposed session plan. To begin, a little bit about my chosen demographic. I've chosen a young group from Positive Futures and based it in London, aiming to provide methods of prevention for young people at risk of joining gangs. There's a very similar and very real organisation built by a group of young men previously gang affiliated called Unique Talent, who aim to get individuals to realise their potential through education and grant them access to college, university and employment training. Unique Talent believes there to be as many as 250 active gangs in London alone, accounting for half the shootings and a fifth of knife crime in England. They identify ages of 12 to 24 as the intervention target group, keeping youngsters in education right up to the point of employment. Now, criminal gangs share two attributes. They facilitate and even require crime and violence, and that they are collective solutions to shared problems experienced by their members, Hastings et al. 2013. Many reasons for joining gangs are universal, requiring a sense of belonging, broken family situations, poverty, peer pressure, protection, and lack of social structures and support, Strand 2014. Unfortunately, these are not issues that can be rectified in a blink of an eye, and as many young Londoners find more than one of these factors apply to themselves, it's easy to see why unsupported individuals turn to gangs. This suggests that attempts to help leave youth gangs must provide them with options that give some of the benefits of gang memberships. Education, alternative activities, and social and community support are key resources required to prevent losing youth to gangs, Strand 2014. This goes to show the importance of interventional organisations such as Unique Talent. So basically, or potentially, a very challenging demographic to coach. So what else do I need to know and consider? Sociology is a social science, the study of societies and how humans act in groups. A discipline that expands our awareness and analysis of social relationships, cultures, and institutions or organisations that shape our lives. Sociology also explores the things that make us different, such as class, age, gender, and ethnicity. It also explores fields that unite us, such as sport. Pierre Bourdieu of 1930 to 2002 was a French sociologist primarily concerned with the dynamics of power in society. He created a set of thinking tools that allowed him to explore different sociological phenomena such as class and social positioning. In doing so, Bourdieu devised a set of relational concepts whose application aimed to understand, explain and disclose inequalities at different layers of society. Murphy 2015. Of his best known constructs, habitus and capital are the thinking tools I'd like to look into today. Habitus explores and denotes our way of being and can be broadly explained as the evolving process in which individuals act, think, perceive and approach the world and their role within it. Murphy 2015. The theory of habitus is based around capital, the non-economic form of establishing social power, which leads to the unconscious acceptance of social order. The five main capitals he lists are shown in the diagram here. So we have economic, symbolic, social, cultural, and physical. Bourdieu, 1978, argues that these five independent factors determine our access to physical activity and not simply our ability to physically afford it. To break down and analyse against my demographic will better allow me to understand the individuals I'll be working with. Now, Unique Talent is a charity which offers their services free of charge, and I would need to either be doing the same or be under a government or council scheme. I travel to local parks and venues and adapt sessions to the environment of cities available. Issuing kit or providing access to equipment they normally couldn't or wouldn't be able to, and providing access for venues will all increase their economic capital. Research results from the study How Does Childhood Economic Disadvantage Lead to Crime suggest that economic disadvantage is associated with clear increases in both self-reported crime and officially recorded convictions. Ferguson 2004. London has the highest rates of poverty in the UK, with 28% of Londoners in poverty compared to 22% nationwide. However, he concluded that adverse family, the individual, school and peer factors combine to increase individual susceptibility to crime. As Ferguson's study declares that no one factor such as poverty is a direct cause, we begin to see how the remainder of Bourdieu's capital has become very relevant. I'd need to then improve their social capital, which is their social connection and position in community and what it's worth. Their cultural capital, which is their education, their intellect, their style of speech and dress, for example. Their symbolic capital, which with what resources are available to them in the sense of honour, prestige or recognition, which serves as an attainable value. and their physical capital, the physical attributes and abilities such as their strength or skill within particular sporting and social practice. As a coach, this leaves me with so many factors to consider and work upon, but many of the positives from these capitals interlink, and those links could replicate the benefits I need to mimic of gang benefits in my sessions as of Hastings et al. 2013's findings. Applying the Habitus framework allows me to distance myself from merely coaching football and understanding the effects of capital on my participants and the factors that can contribute to them, why they're important, and how to attack them, to target them by adapting my approach. And I'll develop this further in my justification of a session. On to political ideology. So ideologies of whatever hue embody an account of reality and an account of how that reality can be bettered, Ecclesall 2003. Politically, this is the comprehension of political ideals to provide plans of action for public policy, making an attempt to justify or change the social and political arrangements and processes of a political community, Freedom 2001. During her tenure as Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher oversaw a number of neoliberal reforms, including tax reduction, deregulation and privatisation. Neoliberalism seeks to transfer the control of economic factors from the public sector to the private sector and lessening government funding. Our close allies across the pond, the United States of America, have also shared broadly similar neoliberal beliefs through the Reagan and Clinton administrations. Neoliberalism, though now an ascendant term used in a variety of fields without a perfect definition, has shaped and structured poverty in the UK and elsewhere, Feldman 2019. On one hand, conceiving the poor as free agents able to escape poverty via the market, Katz 2013, while on the other they're depicted as underachievers who did not take responsibility of their own fate. This inequality is further depicted through the restructuring of government welfare and benefit schemes and privatisation of public services. As seen as part of the early handling of COVID pre-furlough, we were advised by the Conservative government to work only if we must, and those who lived by each paycheck had to return to work and therefore risk catching COVID, whilst those who could work or could afford the time off remained safe and out of harm's way. And this ties in with privatisation and the Conservative government's willingness to consider our not perfect but treasured and vitally important NHS fall under private jurisdiction. The rich who are already on private healthcare and can afford to thrive without the requirement of a free service wouldn't be fazed by such a change, but what the thousands of Londoners in poverty who have already lived restricted to a budget? Paying for health services could mean no food on the table, or for them to join the 170,000 Londoners living on the street. That's 1 in every 52, according to the Streets of London organisation. It does go without saying, with gangs come violence. In the 12-month period from January 2017 to January 18, there were 8,151 victims under the age of 25 of serious violent crime, 2,132 of which were victims of knife crime injuries, and this is just London alone. It's according to the gangs dashboard of the London government website. So evidently, the need for the NHS to be a free service is apparent. How disjointed from society will my demographic be left to believe they are, living in a bureaucratic nation that seems to not care of the lower social classes? To role model athletes such as Marcus Rashford would be great here. Of similar background to the demographic and directly challenging the government approach to free school meals gave all recipients of that service a voice. He's proven his phenomenal athletic ability, representing his nation on the world stage in football, and, Hoban in 1977, writes about how symbolic sports and sportspersons can be. His speed, force, dexterity and presence on the pitch form his character and create the voice that can speak up against the government publicly. While participants won't be defeated and pushed into the gutter, rather they will stay physically fit, in connection to idealistic peers, and be well informed on the vast reasons to stay in education, to lead to success and to challenge the expectations that may be set upon them. Moving on to coaching philosophy. It is argued that establishing and identifying a clear understanding of what underpins coaches' actions allows a coach to utilise the practice activities that they believe are most effective for the learner, Cushion 2016. And for many, that defining philosophy is built up of a collection of values, beliefs, assumptions, attitudes, principles and priorities, Kidman 2011. The main three sports I've grown up playing are badminton, athletics and boxing. Immediately you'll notice they're all solo sports. So to partner this, all my fitness and physical activity training comes from military settings, whether it be within the cadets, both as a cadet and instructor, the Officer Training Corps Reservist, or as Phase 1 Training Sandhurst. Military fitness, 9 times out of 10, is less about individual ability and rather the ability of the team to accomplish a task as a single body. Therefore, you're only as strong as the weakest link. This developed tremendous ability to motivate, cooperate, and drive your fellow comrades with selfless commitment. On the other hand, solo sports have instilled in me the need to perform at your absolute highest standard, and to achieve that is to train accordingly through grit, determination, and honesty to oneself. The great benefit of amalgamating these two practices is a broad scope of approaches I can deal in my coaching hand. With all soldiers of the British Army, values and standards such as integrity, respect, and discipline are worked hard and developed, but with my officer training, I also work off the Army Leadership Code, so I'm trained to encourage thinking, apply reward and discipline, and recognise individual strengths and weaknesses, to name a few. Collins et al. 2009 argues that a coach's core values above all else are the purposeful drive of coaching philosophies, and I therefore believe that my training with the Army shaped my philosophy. I believe my philosophy to be one that drives a committed, driven and a unified team whilst unlocking each individual's potential. I require those I coach to understand that to not give their all doesn't let me down or themselves down, but it can let the collective team down. To be the best you can is to be the strongest team, hence the Army's motto, be the best. And on this, all officers swear by the motto to serve to lead, that leadership is more than a job. And that's why I chose this demographic. I strongly desire to lead in more ways than just in sport. They require more than just a kickabout at the local park. They require guidance to ensure they shy away from crime and violence. To grill and overwork them so they have no desire to return would be foolish, so rather successful sessions will give them purpose and drive, a self-understanding of ability and position in a team, whilst introducing discipline, structure and vitally enjoyment, which they may not be receiving from school or home life. So ultimately, the goal is to disguise life education and crime prevention with sport. Creating a coaching environment. So politically, I'm quite liberally inclined, meaning I see all as equals no matter of class, age, gender or ethnicity. Being mixed race myself and of two cultures and growing up in North London, I strongly believe mixing of different lifestyles and cultures is great for society. Without discriminating against those of a higher social class, they may find coaching this demographic challenging, whilst potentially finding it hard to be accepted by the participants. You can see liberal and new affluent workers there, which quite surprisingly, well not surprisingly at all I guess, when I changed about people that I knew socially, as in I just met a lot of people at Sandhurst who are of quite a high social standard, it did actually change me back down to traditional working class and called me old, which I found quite funny. Moving on though, dress shouldn't be an issue, as I'll predominantly be in Nike gear, Nike sports gear, which I imagine this demographic will have no issue with. Matching my choice of language, tone and body language with my philosophy is important. I'm trying to make friends amongst my demographic and build relationships, so positive affirmations and motivational language is key, and this is what's going to help me build rapport. Care must be taken to balance my position of power, as I'm wanting to offer myself up as a positive role model. During their sessions, I'm wanting them to forget the limitation of their surroundings and will enforce focus on what they can physically achieve right here and now in this session. And I'll be aiming subtly to be a transformational coach, advertising integrity and fairness, setting clear goals and encouraging rather than commanding, whilst using the rapport I build to create a vision and provoke thought and discussion. I wouldn't challenge participants' economic capitals by having kit requirements, as it would be unfair to demand something that could be potentially out of budget, but I will suggest recommendations such as Sports Direct, where you can get a pair of Sondical football boots for 14 quid. And finally, onto the session plan. To begin, you'll see that I've not filled out the content of the plan fully. That's simply because I feel here the important part is the justification, not simply putting in extra drills. I'm envisioning this to be one group, however, out of multiple per week, and that participants aren't restricted to a single session. This is merely an example of any one random session. And with this greater number of participants throughout the week, I'd mimic a Sunday league tournament, which gives a goal for the teams to strive for. However, teams would change per season once all the games were played after a few weeks to limit internal conflict. But onto the session itself. So the reason for me to be on site 30 minutes before the launch of the formal session is to mimic what youth social groups do. They meet up and hang out without need for a plan. It's here where the participants don't think they're in a teaching or coaching situation or environment yet, where I can provoke insightful conversation whilst disguising it as a chat and a joke around sat by a local corner shop, for example. Here I can identify and understand the social groups within the cohort and mould them myself to share that feeling of gratification and family, respect and success that gangs famously offer. An easy way to build social capital whilst investigating into this individual. Hopefully it's the sort of thing that participants also talk about away from the session, thus increasing the number of people hearing of what I do and hopefully increasing participation. Without forcing it down their throat, and more delicately still than saying no to a toddler, I can also use the informality to encourage the importance of staying in education with the opening of paid employment that follows, and this can begin to build cultural capital too. Appointing roles and responsibilities, however grand or small, such as captains for the tournament, individuals helping lead warm-ups as shown in this session, or others just helping lead drills and cooldowns. Letting them prepare sessions or observe where their peers need to improve will help each member feel like an important and valued member in this football community that I'm making. This will help boost continual participation, as it's hard to leave a role behind, but also boost cultural, physical and symbolic capitals. Emphasising the revision of this quick drill is such a small feature. In sporting context, it will obviously help improve performance, but subconsciously it is establishing that to revise is to improve and affirming school systems as positives, something I need to instill into my demographic. Having these sessions in public parks and free of charge will both promote widening of participation as it's free advertising. In a neoliberal sense, I am eliminating the inequality as it's truly free and available for all. And as a club develops, and I'd be able or hope to have training tops for all participants to wear or a kit to use at games, which will not only boost self-pride and sense of belonging, but again advertises that this gang is one worth joining. The army unofficially call themselves the biggest gang in the UK, and once you take away the element of crime, all a gang is an outfit or body of individuals organised under a hierarchical system working better in coordination, and I hope that they can see that my gang would be the best gang to join. Thank you.